Good morning, everybody. This is your man, Mark Fuller. This is the Free World Order, another video archive for the books. Another beautiful Saturday morning here in New York City. Let me start off my video by thanking everyone for liking the Facebook page, for subscribing to us on YouTube, and for joining us with $1 monthly contribution. The money that we're raising is being used towards assisting the Venus Project with building the first resource-based city. My goal through this platform is to raise $1 billion in order to build the first resource-based city, which will be able and is capable of providing for all human beings in the city. Ultimately, that blueprint will be the format that we can use to duplicate that process of building a resource-based city and continuing to go all over the planet as people become aware of the way that we can intelligently use the resources of the planet instead of money. Intelligently use the resources combined with science and technology to produce the highest standard of living for human beings that we've ever seen on Earth. The system that we're using right now, money, the monetary system, is not capable of allowing all human beings to benefit from a high standard of living. In fact, the majority of people are impoverished. The majority of people are forced to work on a job in exchange for money in order to survive. And we want to change that. We want to make it the norm, quote unquote, for people to receive all of the essentials that are needed for life without a price tag. That, in a nutshell, is what the Free World Order is all about. Let me get to my topic of discussion for this morning. Should we bridge the gap between cultural differences? I think that this is an interesting conversation to have. I tend to talk a lot about the monetary system, money, jobs, things of that nature, but there's a lot that goes into the way that human beings interact with one another because of the culture or the background that they come from. For example, I come from a background where we are taught what is called manners. In other words, when someone does something for you that is kind, you say thank you. That's where I come from. That's the background that I come from. People that are raised in the same background or in a similar background as that will find it offensive if you don't say thank you. I find myself from time to time, if I hold the door open for someone and they don't say thank you, I do take offense at that, because I didn't have to hold the door open for you. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you, be courteous enough to thank me for holding the door open for you? Because I'm basically someone that you don't know that decided to hold the door open for you out of kindness. And for you not to say thank you would be offensive to me. But I also want to say along that line that the person may not come from a background where that type of mannerism is taught. So they don't even know that by them not saying thank you, it is offensive to you. You understand? This could be someone that's from another part of the world where they are oblivious to what it is that you're being offended by. And I see the way that conflict can happen between people when you don't take the time to bridge the gap between whatever your differences are. And it's small differences that triggers wars of entire nations. And I believe that it's very important that we learn language that is universal, that is not subject to interpretation, in order to effectively communicate with other human beings. You know, something as small as a smile. A smile is part of universal language. Any culture that you come from, when you smile, most of the time, the person knows what it is that you're doing. They know that that represents some type of connection, whatever the connection may be. They identify with a smile as something positive, not something negative. Most people, we can never classify all people as having the same reaction or the same response to different things that we do. But most people in most cultures respond to a smile. So it's something as simple as that can help to bridge the gap between the differences that we have culturally. Cultural background is also important as far as being exposed to other cultures, because the more that you're exposed to other cultures, the more that you are learning about humanity all across the globe, for one. And you also are learning to be tolerant, to be patient with people, because many times the behavior that people will exhibit has everything to do with the background that they were raised in. So it's important that we learn to bridge the gap between our cultural differences. And a lot of times, this will help to prevent and to avoid conflict between people. You guys hear me say all the time, if you're familiar with my videos, you hear me always talk about how your environment dictates your behavior. And this is 100% true. I don't care where you're raised, whatever the cultural behavior of that environment is, that is what you are likely to take on, because you're not being exposed to anything else. So that's why I believe also it's important for us to be able to travel and to see other cultures, to be exposed to as many cultures as possible on this earth. Because all human beings are the same everywhere, although we have differences with the way that we behave because of the environment that we're raised in. So that's why, people say, well, it's great to travel and meet people and see different cultures. Yeah, it is. But the reason that I'm explaining in this video is not just because, or just for the right for you to say, well, I'm well traveled and I've been here and been there and seen this and seen that. It's not just about you. It's more so about the way that you can learn from the culture of other people. And culture is simply the way of life, the way of interacting and reacting to environment. That's what your culture represents. Just like how people cook differently in different places all across this planet. What you will enjoy as far as food, you're enjoying that because you're used to it. To you, that's the best thing in the world. I'm from my culture, and my background is Southern cooking. I love fried chicken, smothered chicken. I like steak, shrimp. There's a lot of food that I enjoy. In some parts of the world, they might eat octopus. They might eat squid. They might be somewhere close to the sea where they specialize in seafood. If my background is not one that comes from exposure to seafood, some of the things that they eat, I may not be interested in at all. Or I might, think, oh, that's disgusting. Like a clam, mussels. Those might be disgusting to me. You see what I'm saying? But it's important that we are exposed to culture, other cultures, because we don't want to be offensive to someone else's culture. I don't want to be offensive to another person's culture. I would rather learn and even try things out just to see what it is that they enjoy. Maybe to get an idea of why they might like what they like. You see what I'm saying? Because it's important that we bridge these gaps between human beings. The more that we do that, the less conflict we will see between people, the less misunderstandings that we will see between people, and the less negative behavior we'll see exhibited by people. So it's important that we adapt values that are respectful of other people's culture. That's a value within itself. Learning how to be tolerant when it comes to someone's culture. The same way that you can't judge a person based on their behavior, because their behavior could be, and usually is, reflected by the environment that they are in. When people are living in impoverished conditions, they behave a certain way. When people are very wealthy and they basically have access to everything that they want and everything that they need, they behave a certain way. And the difference in behavior that you see, it's easy for someone to pass judgment on a person based on their behavior, but their behavior is a direct reflection of the environment that they are raised in. So, the best way to achieve the highest level out of human beings, as far as what a person is capable of in a positive light, in a creative light, in a productive light, the best way to accomplish that is by not depriving anyone of anything. I give you an example of what people tend to do. People want what they want when they want it, right? I think that that's fair to say pretty much everyone is like that. You want what you want when you want it, unless you just have been, in a position of oppression, or someone has negatively done things to control the way that you think. You may not have those desires and those wants. So to you, it might just be a dream. But for the most part, people tend to want what they want, and they want it now. But what you want reflects what you've been exposed to. So you see how they always tie in together. It always ties in together. In order for us as human beings to experience the best that humanity is capable of, we have to make sure that whatever we're doing and whatever we have in place does not deprive human beings of what it is that they desire to have. And I'm not talking about excessive desire and extravagant desire, because that is also something that is taught to you. It's just like, I'm from American culture. In American culture, the wealthy people or the rich people, and I'm pretty sure that it's like this anywhere, wealthy and richer people tend to be, not all of them, but a lot of them tend to have a certain excessive behavior. 30 cars, mansion, maids, housekeepers, 25 bathrooms in the house, jewelry, expensive clothes, right? And then what happens is those images are projected to the masses of people through media, mainstream media, movies, television. And there's a system in place that keeps people, when they see that, what those rich, wealthy people are experiencing, they want that because that is glorified. That is projected to you as an image, and that now becomes your idea of a great lifestyle. The lifestyle of the rich and famous. That becomes projected to you. So now you associate being wealthy with those images. Okay. And as a result of that, you now, because of that association, think that, well, everyone can't live like that, when that behavior is a reflection of a huge disproportionate disparity of wealth and access between those rich and wealthy people and the average person. So now just like when I talk to people now, I'm saying to them, well, through a resource-based economy, the difference between that and what we're doing now with using money in our society, everyone would be able to live a high standard of living. And the first thing that they do is say, no, everyone can't be rich. There's not enough. You see the point that I'm making? When the behavior of rich people within this monetary based system is excessive as it is, they have way more than they need. They have way more than they're capable of even experiencing at one point in time. You can't be in 3 cars at the same time. You can't be in 4 houses at the same time. So that excessiveness is what has reduced our thinking of a high standard of living to that. So we associate high standard of living with excessive behavior. And that is a fallacy and a failure of the system that we're using, because it is creating that, when in essence, there are people that can't even drink clean water because of the environment that they're in. They don't have access to food, healthy food. Some don't have access to any food as it is, let alone healthy food. So that disparity is what this monetary-based system creates. And as a result of that, we're seeing what we see in the world everywhere. And that is also attached to cultural differences. So within each culture and where people come from, you have that same disparity because money is being used in every culture. So once again, that's my segue into the resource-based economy. Using a resource-based economy is going to eliminate the majority of the negative behavior that we see people do. Because when you remove the need for someone to do something, when a person doesn't have the need to behave a certain way, what do they tend not to do? They tend not to behave that way. That is just the reaction of human beings. We're reactionary beings. There is no such thing as human nature. There's nothing that compels you to do anything. You are reacting to your environment at all times. So whatever your environment is will determine what your behavior will be. And that's important for us to know and to remember at all times. So when you look at what people do, you have to examine and study what their background is, what their environment is, what the conditions are that they have been exposed to. And you have a better understanding of why they are doing what they're doing. This is a good video. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this content. Reach out to me on Facebook, Mark Fuller, on Facebook. Also, be sure to like the Facebook page for the Free World Order and hashtag Free World Order. You type that into Google, you'll find all of my videos online. Subscribe